To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's a wild ride into wisdom.
When indiscreet doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are talking about Disneyland and Disney World. And we have a special guest on the podcast today. We've got CJ here. CJ has moved to the Disney World, and she comes from Disneyland. So she's got a cool look on Disney World and Disneyland, and she's going to share that with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
CJ, you're running the podcast Park to Park podcast, right?
Yes. Me and my sister run that podcast together. And basically, we compare Disneyland to Disney World. And at the end of the episode, we decide which one is better based on whatever comparison we are doing that day. So, like our most recent episode was about, was it Space Mountain? We just recorded Space Mountain. So it was Space Mountain versus Space Mountain. And which one is better?
Any spoilers?
It was very lopsided. I'll say that.
Being somebody who is a worlder, and I've only been to Disneyland once, I have ridden Space Mountain, and I definitely know the way that I lean. So, and it probably would surprise you.
Which way do you lean?
I lean towards the Disneyland one.
That doesn't surprise me.
When I rode the Disneyland, it like blew my mind. I was like, how?
Yeah.
How is this not in Disney World? But yeah.
Right? That's kind of where I'm at too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is only 2 years older than the than the Disney World version. Like, why is it this much better?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the secret there is that they did a huge refurbishment in 2005 for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Track replacement, the whole 9 yards, and it just got massive upgrades, and that pushes Disneyland over the top for me personally.
Oh, for sure.
Well, now I'm excited to ride it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so if nobody knows out there, but I think I've said it a few hundred times already, we're taking a trip to Disneyland, and that is why CJ is here, because we want to kind of bridge the gap between world and land and figure out how the heck we'd even go about going to Disneyland, because it is completely different than the world. And
Yeah, it really is. There was once upon a time at Walt Disney World where you had to plan things 6 months in advance, and I know, things have changed a little bit, but Disneyland has always been one of those things where you don't have to plan that far in advance, and it's much more a fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing.
Case in point, this morning I was making Plaza Inn reservations, and I was on at 8 o'clock. I got a Trader Sam's, which you can't even reserve at Disney World, but I got one of those, and then an hour later went, I completely forgot to get Plaza Inn, and there were plenty of spots there, which I feel like an hour into reservations for anywhere in Disney World, you're going to have trouble finding anything for a party of 5 for sure.
Oh yeah, party of 5. Yeah, it's just much less competitive at Disneyland for things like that.
And would you say that's because I hear this all the time, that Disneyland is more of a locals park? And is that just because locals aren't going to be planning the things that they do 60 days in advance? They just kind of show up and do it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor, and especially with Plaza Inn. Plaza Inn only takes breakfast reservations, so, as a local, that really only leaves me Saturdays and Sundays to do breakfast at Plaza Inn because of work and school and whatever. So there's just, when you go, you'll see the locals will come in the afternoon and heavy into the evening after school, after work. Mornings are pretty dead there unless it's like 4th of July or something crazy like that. So yeah, I think the local population really plays a factor into that. Absolutely.
So let's get into Disneyland itself. It's the first Magic Kingdom, and I've kind of looked at a lot of this for myself as I'll do rope drop. I have a 4-day park hopper, so I'm going to just do rope drop and get in whatever I can, and then visit shows, maybe go check out a hotel, and come back for evening stuff, but not stress over it too much. Am I attacking this the right way? I'm having some anxiety over that. So
Okay, let me just tell you, over the summer, my husband and I and our 2 kids, who are at the time almost 4 and just turned 1, we had 2-day park hoppers, and we prioritized things that don't exist at Walt Disney World, and we did everything we wanted to do. So, I mean, if that helps you, if that helps ease your anxieties a little bit. I mean, we had 2 little kids with us, so we were okay. You will 100% get everything done that you want to do. I guarantee that. With 4-day park hoppers, you're good. Especially with rope dropping. Rope dropping is key at Disneyland. Like, first of all, where are you staying? Are you staying on property or off property?
we're staying off. I can never remember. I think it's a Hyatt that's 2 blocks away.
Okay, yeah. So you'll be able to walk. First of all, you don't need to ride share or anything like that. You'll be able to walk. I would get there at least 30 minutes before the park opens. Security can take some time. I don't think, unless something's changed recently, they don't have the same scanning system that Walt Disney World has. They still manually go through your bags, so it does take some time. But yeah, rope dropping, you'll be able to whip through a bunch of rides. You'll be good. I really think you'll be able to do everything.
I know
Awesome.
that I'm used to World, in which we get there early, we rope drop, we are very strategic as to like when we want to hit certain rides and stuff like that. We're, at least for me and my fiance, we are very mathematical as to how we hit the parks. We always have our reservations in hand, and we're always figuring that stuff out. And I know that we want to start to take Disney parks a little slower, and we're kind of thinking that possibly Land will let us do that. And so, yeah, is there a good way to kind of like slow down in the parks and not be like running from like attraction to attraction?
Well, first of all, because the parks in California are so much smaller, that'll help you not run from attraction to attraction. The other thing I think you can do, if you're okay with missing things like Dumbo and the carousel and the teacups because they're, such basic attractions, that'll also help. But yeah, there's moments where you can take a little break and enjoy what the park has to offer. Some of my favorite spots to just like chill out, I really like going into the Grand Californian lobby. There's an exit from California Adventure straight into the lobby. It has its own entrance into the park. It's super easy to just go in there, and there's a little bar right in there. You can grab a drink, you can chill, and then go right back in, and just take it nice and easy. I think it's a really easy park to do that in, especially California Adventure. That park was opened in 2001, so I think the company as a whole learned a lot more about crowds and how much they really like the Disney parks. So the walkways are wider. Disneyland gets more people-y. It's a lot smaller. So California Adventure, in my opinion, is the more relaxed park, and there's a lot more places to eat, a lot more places to relax.
Yeah, I noticed that about California Adventure, and it's funny. That's the park that I know the least about, because that's the park I didn't even go into California Adventure when I went to Disneyland.
Oh, you were in for such a treat. It's so unique. It's such a great. I love that park.
I just can't wait to ride Superstar Limo. So
You know what? That is the one ride I never got to go on. My sister went on. My sister's friend, she had a birthday like opening month of DCA. So the mom took all the kids to DCA that month, basically. So my sister got to go. I never went on Superstar Limo. That was the one year we didn't have annual passes that we like tease my parents about all the time. So my sister got to go and I never did. And I'm like, dang it, I wish I got to go on Superstar Limo.
But you have a cool story, so.
Yeah. She gets to hold that one over my head.
So yeah, with like talking California Adventure and rope drop, I was watching a live stream, and she had kind of alluded to the fact that most people are running for Disneyland. So in my head, I'm thinking maybe California Adventure isn't quite as busy at rope drop. Am I just making that up?
I would say that's probably true. I think where the people are going in California Adventure is either going to be Radiator Springs Racers or Web Slingers, the Spider-Man ride. So when we were there, my son uses the disability access service, so we can run things a little bit differently. I'd been talking to some friends who still live in California and are still locals, and they suggested going over to Pixar Pier first. And I'm really glad that we did that because like Incredicoaster was empty, Toy Story Mania was empty because everybody else was over at Web Slingers and Racers. And if you're comfortable doing single rider, it might be worth it for you to go to Pixar Pier first if you're going to rope drop California Adventure, because you can single rider on Racers and Web Slingers and not have as bad of a wait. It's only worth it to rope drop Racers or Web Slingers if you're at the front of the pack.
Okay.
So just something to consider.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I like that. Because I know like at Animal Kingdom or something, everyone's running for Avatar or the Safari, and you can walk right on Expedition Everest for the first hour or so. Yeah, that's great to hear that.
Yeah. And I've done some of the things I like to do in Walt Disney World are like challenge myself to see how many rides can you do in X amount of time. And I've done something at Animal Kingdom where I say, okay, I have to be at church at like 9:45 in the morning. The park's opening at 8. Let's see how many rides I can do from 8 to 9. And I will, like, I've done this before. I've gone into Animal Kingdom and done all the rides except for what's an Avatar and Pandora, and changed in the bathroom at 9:15 and made it to church one time.
Wow.
So
that is a
it
life
might be,
I want to live.
So it might be worth it, to spend your time on other parts of the park if you're going to end up waiting for the headliner rides, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One thing that we are excited about is Lamplight Lounge. We've seen a lot of really good things about Lamplight Lounge, and we're kind of foodies, anyways. Like we just love food. It's kind of the secret reason that we like Disney so much. But yeah, we're really excited about Lamplight Lounge. And again, I just don't know all that much about California Adventure. There's a lot of other really good restaurants there too. Which one is your favorite?
Okay, so one of the things that we used to do a lot when we lived there is we would go to Ghirardelli, which is over kind of by the entrance to Cars Land. It's like to the right of the entrance to Cars Land. We would go get one of those really big sundaes from Ghirardelli, and then we would walk around the back side of Cars Land to the Flo's seating area. There's like a back patio overlooking Radiator Springs Racers, and we would enjoy our ice cream sundae and watch the cars go by. It's so relaxing, and it just transports you to Route 66. Like, there's nothing like it in a Disney park. That's one of my favorite experiences ever. It's just so amazing. The other place I really enjoy going is right there in Pacific Wharf, right next to Ghirardelli, Boudin Bakery. I think, or maybe it's called La Brea Bakery. I don't remember, but it's the place where they have bread bowls, and they have clam chowder in a bread bowl and different soups in a bread bowl. But clam chowder in a bread bowl, I remember this from my childhood in Disneyland, and they brought it to California Adventure. Clam chowder and bread bowl is really, really good. And I know they have bread bowls in Disneyland as well, but the ones in California Adventure have always tasted more fresh to me. So those are really good. And if you go through there's a bread tour where you get a little free sample of sourdough bread.
Oh,
wow,
cool!
It's really cool.
I didn't realize there's.
And if you feel like splurging, last tip, what's it called? Carthay Circle Restaurant is amazing. And the restaurant portion, not the lounge, but the restaurant, they have these little rolls that you can get. They're an extra charge. I think they're an appetizer, but they've got like cheese melted into them, and you like pull them apart and the cheese just like drips out, and they serve this apricot butter with them. Oh my gosh. I wish they would bring those here. They're just so good. And the restaurant is beautifully themed. I mean, that's the theater where Snow White premiered, and there's so many like Snow White Easter eggs and stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah, we have reservations for Carthay Circle, so we're excited about that. Yep.
I'm so excited for you.
And then one thing I was gonna say is when you talked about the Ghirardelli Sundae, that sounds exactly like what I do at Disney World, where we will go and get our Dole Whip stuff, and then I usually get I think it's called the Tropical Serenade. I really hope they just keep that, because it's part of the 50th, and if it goes away, I'm gonna be very sad. But yeah, the Tropical Serenade, I get that, and then we will go and stand in line for Tiki Room. And at one point during COVID, they weren't letting you take anything into rides.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But now they we're able to just take our Tropical Serenade and sit there and just enjoy Tiki Room, just eating our Dole Whip. Like, it's honestly like probably one of the coolest things that we do at Disney World. I just love it.
Yeah.
It just Tiki Room and everything, like all that ambiance is just perfect it's like the perfect way to enjoy a Dole Whip.
Yes, yes. And it's those special things that I don't think any other place can replicate, but Disney seems to bring back those memories for everybody. And it's tied to something as silly as like an ice cream sundae or a Dole Whip, but it's just so special, you know?
So true. So okay. We're really interested in like a lot of the snacks. You know, like Lunar New Year is going to be going on when we're there, so we want to do those food booths. And we've on this show, I've always said, like, at Disney World, don't take time in the parks to sit down at a restaurant. So we're kind of taking that approach. And as I'm listening to all this, I'm starting to regret that. But, you know, we have a Blue Bayou on our first day. We have the Plaza Inn on our last day. But we're kind of like, we're just going to get other things. You know, like we do want to eat at Hungry Bear. We want to eat at Jolly Holiday. We want to... You know, I'd like to get the chicken at Plaza Inn at some point.
Oh gosh, my family. Oh man. Okay, let me tell you. My family calls that chicken crack chicken because it is so good. It is so good. I love that fried chicken. I miss it so much.
So, have you had the chicken at Disney World, at the Plaza?
I don't think I have.
Okay, I haven't either. So I have. All right. So then. Just the fact that you're telling me that, like, I'm feeling better already, but...
Oh, my gosh. The mashed potatoes, the green beans, and the fried chicken. It's so good. I'm so jealous that you get to eat it.
I hope people listening have eaten already.
I ate already and I'm hungry.
We missed it on our last trip because my kids just could not hang until dinner time. And that's, like, a regret that I have from our trip over the summer. So I'm like, I really need to go back.
I'm trying to think of things that aren't food related now because we've talked about food for so long.
On that enough,
but I enjoy. So one of the things that I love about Disneyland is the history of everything, just of how like everything started there. And one thing I really enjoy is when I walk around and I kind of look at because I've said this before, but like Disneyland is like eerily similar. Like it's weird to be there and have Magic Kingdom be like my main park, like home park. But one thing I really enjoy is like kind of the architecture and like the way that the park was made, because it was still made. I mean, the walkways are a little smaller. They weren't expecting so many people to love Disney so much. But it was made like in a very smart way for people, like with the hub and spoke area, and just kind of like the landscaping and like the way things, like one of my favorite areas is like the area right in front of Pirates of the Caribbean. I think that's like that lagoon is where they do Fantasmic, correct?
Yeah, that's Rivers of America, and they do Fantasmic there. Yes.
Yeah, so that's just like one of my favorite things about Disneyland is like it's different from the Magic Kingdom in that sense, where like it's still hub and spoke, but like the lands are set up differently, but it was still kind of like really well thought out. before being built in, was it like the 50s? So yeah.
Yeah, they started in 1954 and they took a year to build it, like just literally a year
Yeah.
to build it. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Disneyland, and I think is maybe lost on the casual Walt Disney World person who eventually goes to Disneyland, they walk in and they say, "Wow, this is really small. It's not blowing me away." You walk down Main Street in Magic Kingdom and you're like, "Whoa, this big castle." Da, 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 da. But something that, Disneyland's obviously a lot smaller, and I think it forces Disney of today and also Disney of the past, they have to cram detail into every little corner. It doesn't necessarily serve the purpose of moving people like Magic Kingdom does. You look at Magic Kingdom's hub, for example, and they've gotten rid of pretty much all of the trees. It's very flat. It serves the purpose of holding a lot of people. But Disneyland still holds the charm of having all these trees with the twinkling lights at night, and a lot of detail that's missing at Magic Kingdom. And it's just different in that way. They've kept some of the magic in that way, and it's just a very different purpose than Magic Kingdom serves. And unfortunately, I think that's lost on a lot of Walt Disney World fans. So when you guys go, look at it through that perspective of like, this isn't meant to appease thousands upon thousands of people, and it's not meant to be like, whoa, a giant castle. That's not really the purpose. It's meant to hold detail and minutia, and it's just different purpose.
I'm really, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but like when I walk into that park, I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of emotions. Because I'm a big history nerd when it comes to Disney. I made Mikhailo go to Marceline. It was my second time going there.
Oh, cool.
And I absolutely love that little town, and I could spend a lot of time there still, and I've seen probably everything they have. And so I kind of wonder how I'm going to react walking in, knowing, thinking about all those pictures of Walt in the park, knowing that he was firsthand working on that, and it was his idea, so it's going to be interesting. And I also need to throw in that there are benches in the hub everywhere.
Yes. Yes, they want you to sit and relax and enjoy it. Whereas I feel like Magic Kingdom's hub, my sister and I talked about this on, I think, our castle comparison episode. Like, you take away the people and it's just like a flat concrete area that just happens to have a castle. Versus Disneyland, it really looks like a park with a lot of greenery, and it's really pretty to look at.
And as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the last time that I watched fireworks in Magic Kingdom. We always get a spot near the partner statue, and the show got done, and people started clearing out, making that mass exodus. And we always hang out for a few minutes and let everyone disperse. And first of all, you see all the garbage that people leave behind. Americans are terrible people. But beyond that, as you say, like, it's flat and it's not meant to appeal to people really, right? It's just empty.
It's like showcasing the castle.
Yeah,
is what it does,
it's really
basically.
empty otherwise. And that really stuck in my head. Just kind of that emptiness as people left. And so I'm gonna have that in my head as we watch fireworks and go through the hub at night in Disneyland, because I have a feeling I'm not going to feel that way as people are kind of spreading out from there.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the hub of Disneyland, like, the Astro Orbiter is right there, and Princess Fantasy Fair is right there, and back in the day in the 50s and 60s and really up until recently, they had swing dancing right there on the left side of the hub, and they've just recently changed it to Fantasy Fair. So there's just stuff to do right there that's not just staring at the castle. And the Matterhorn is right there. It's just not all about the castle. And I think that's a good thing. The castle doesn't necessarily need to be the star of the show.
But it also is really cool looking, at least from what I've seen on TV. So
Yeah. And make sure you go into the castle too. That's another thing I appreciate about Disneyland's castle. It's not closed off. Magic Kingdom's castle is only accessible if you have money or if you are like, a Make-A-Wish person who's getting a wish granted or something like that. The Disneyland castle is open to everybody. There's a walkthrough attraction in there. So make sure you go in. I think it closes, before sunset or something like that. So make sure you walk inside.
definitely.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about that. And I've seen that before in videos, and a lot of what I'm doing is watching a lot of YouTube videos. I mean, I do this for Disney World a little bit, but for Disney World, it's more like I've never been to this cantina. What's it like? For Disney World, for the most part, I've got the lay of the land. I know how things work. But with Disneyland, it's kind of like I should know, like how, like for the most part, like what I'm doing, because it's not like a completely different park, but it is a completely different park. So, what I'm ended up doing is just watching a lot of YouTube and trying to like figure out exactly how I want to attack the park and stuff like that. So, what I'm really excited is going to these parks as somebody who like it. It's not my first time at the park, but it's not my home park. It's not a park
Right.
that like I know like the back of my hand, and I know where I'm going, and I know what I want to hit, and I know how I want to experience it. I'm just going to go in there and experience it the way that I'm going to be experiencing it. And I think that's cool for me because I haven't done that in a long time because I've been going to Disney World for so long. Obviously, I'm currently recording a podcast for it. But Disneyland, I don't have that, so I'm excited about kind of feeling that way and experiencing land in that way.
Yeah, and I'm envious that you get to do that because now I don't get to experience that unless I go to an international park.
Yep.
I've been having that thought a lot too, is that like I'm getting to do this for the first time. And when the first time I went to Disney World, I was just into college. And all I wanted to do was get done with as much as I could possibly get done. And never really thought about how it was my first time going into a park, right? So, like, that's not lost on me this time around. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But to that end of planning and trying to attack the park, like usually when I'm going into one of the Disney World parks, I'm thinking, this is where I want to go. This is the first ride I want to hit. I don't have that in my head right now because I just want to do it all. So I'm rope dropping Disneyland. Where am I going?
Well, what I always did was Space Mountain, 100%. We always started in Tomorrowland. Are you using Genie Plus or no?
I'm not planning on it, no.
Okay.
Now, Mikhailo
Yeah,
is.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Okay. So I don't really have experience with Genie Plus because, we moved while the parks were still closed and Genie Plus wasn't a thing. So this is, without the Genie Plus perspective. But we always did Space Mountain first and, we would usually do Buzz Lightyear right after that. And then we skipped Star Tours. That wasn't really our favorite thing. And sometimes we do Autopia before bopping over to Matterhorn. And if the line for Matterhorn was long, we would do Single Rider. Single Rider would get you on pretty fast. Sometimes they close it off depending on how crowds are looking. And then we would go to Fantasyland. Fantasyland, we would generally skip Peter Pan because it always has a long wait. And if you're not part of that early entry crowd for hotel guests, you're going to be waiting a long time. But we would do things like Storybook Land, Casey Jr., Pinocchio, Snow White. Those rides are generally pretty good, and they're unique to Disneyland, which is, a good thing. And then we would go over to like Big Thunder, Haunted, Pirates, Jungle Cruise. And we would throw Indiana Jones in there somewhere. The problem is Indiana Jones used to have Single Rider, and I don't think it does anymore. So that kind of throws a wrench in your plans. But
Well,
you know, you guys,
we don't
you
even
have
have to.
4-day park hoppers,
Yeah.
so you could start there another day.
And we don't have to worry about Indiana Jones, so there's a
Because
plus.
it's going to be closed.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's right. So in that case, I would go over to Splash Mountain at some point, assuming it's going to be open.
Okay. And you know, as you alluded to it, I've got a Fort Park. He's got a day less, and sorry, Mikhailo, you know. But like, so my idea is just like I said earlier, is rope drop, and from what I understand, like rope drop can last until noon sometimes. Is that the case, or?
For the most part, I mean, it depends on what day of the week and what time of year. If it's like a holiday time, it's going to be busy. If it's a weekend, it's going to be busier. If it's a weekday, you're probably going to be okay. The people that you're going to be dealing with on weekdays are people in my demographic who have like 4-year-olds and 1-year-olds that are not in school yet,
Okay.
who don't work, who are going to be hanging out in Fantasyland and doing like Haunted Mansion and Pirates and stuff that don't have high requirements. But you know, the Haunted Mansion line and the Pirates line and the Jungle Cruise line, they move pretty fast. You know, a lot of rides at Disneyland don't have lightning lane. So like Pirates doesn't have lightning lane. Jungle Cruise doesn't. So the lines move a lot more quickly than they do at Disney World.
Okay. Cool.
One thing that I have been kind of trying to figure out is how I'm going to attack California Adventure. Because something that I'm noticing is that California Adventure actually has like a lot of hits. It kind of feels like the Hollywood studios of California. And so, I mean, they just have like a bunch of like really big rides and a lot of rides that I want to hit. And I've heard both sides where it's like California Adventure doesn't have a lot of rides, but then like when you look at it, like
there's
a lot to do, and they're all like real big hits, like even down to Incredicoaster. Like I really want to ride that. It's
a fun ride.
That's not even like the biggest ride that they have there. So one thing that I'll say too is I have something going for me because I'm not the biggest Marvel fan. I might get assassinated for this, but I'm not the biggest Marvel fan.
I'm not either.
I don't know if we're going to want to ride web slingers. Like I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, well, it does have single rider, so maybe that's how you approach that one. If I were you, if you're comfortable doing single rider, there's a lot that has single rider over there, and that's what I would do. You're doing Genie Plus, so you've got a lot of options there. The one big ride that does not have single rider is Mission Breakout, so I would prioritize that. And then Soarin' does not have single rider as well. So if you wanted to do that, I would also do that. You said you're going during Lunar New Year. I know during Food and Wine Festival, they switched to Soarin' over California. So, but I think it'll be Soarin' over the world when you're there.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So now you got to go back during the Food and Wine Festival so you can go over the California version. The other thing is if you're okay skipping Little Mermaid and Toy Story Mania, they're exactly the same as Walt Disney World. So if that helps you plan your day a little bit, you're not missing anything if you're okay skipping those.
The funny thing about that is that those are two of my fiance's favorite rides.
Okay, then you have to go on those. Little Mermaid does not have lightning lane, so the line moves fast. Toy Story does have lightning lane. So if I were you, I would prioritize Guardians of the Galaxy and then prioritize Racers if you're okay doing a single rider on that, and then Incredicoaster. So those three are going to be your top three. You know, Grizzly River Run is fun, but it's going to be winter, so it might be kind of cold.
That's also another one that's going to be closed.
Oh, yeah.
Which
okay.
I'm kind of sad about because I like Kali River Rapids. I'm like one of the few people who actually like Kali River Rapids. And so I wanted to go on Grizzly River Run because I've heard that it's like a very similar ride. So
Yeah. It's, well, spoiler, Grizzly River is a lot better.
That's also what I hear. So yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I prioritize Mission Breakout, Racers, and Incredicoaster. And if you're comfortable, I would do single rider on Racers and Incredicoaster. You'll get on a lot faster that way.
Yeah, that makes
And then
sense.
another tip is Monsters Inc. I know it's a kids ride, but they have something called the Buddy Pass. And that's kind of like single rider, but it's for a party of 2. And the way that they do seating is 3 rows of 2 people. So a lot of times they'll have a party of 4 and they're looking for a party of 2. So they'll pull from the Buddy Pass line to fill in that last row. So just go to the entrance and ask a cast member, like, can I have a Buddy Pass ticket? And they'll send you through the exit, and you can get on a lot faster that way.
I definitely want to ride Monsters Inc. and pretend
It's
like
cute.
it's Superstar Limo.
It's a really cute ride. I really like
I
that
also
one.
like, I've always thought, ever since I saw Monsters Inc., that the doors area with all the doors would have been a really awesome ride. So I'm glad that they actually made that happen.
It's a really, really cute ride. I really like that one.
Maybe someday, Mikhailo, on the show, we can talk about the history of the door ride that never happened at Hollywood Studios.
Right?
Yes.
And it was rumored for California Adventure too. So yeah.
So enough grilling you with questions about Disneyland. We always like to ask our guests what your connection is to Disneyland, or to Disney in particular, and we also started kind of your moment of wonder. I don't know if you saw the Disney TV special Thanksgiving weekend, but the Huffs did their little moment of wonder during the show, and it's just kind of that memory you have that connects you to Disney. So I know I'm throwing you on the spot right now, but just kind of give us what brings you to Disney and connects you, and any of that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really like a particular moment, because it was just something that was always there. If you talk to people who live in Southern California and grew up there, people, this is going to be kind of weird, but people don't really go to Southern California to retire. So people who live there, they've lived there for a long time. So like my parents grew up in Southern California, my grandparents grew up in Southern California, and Disneyland was just always there. Like my grandparents were at Disneyland opening week. Like that's where they like dated each other, and that's kind of where they had their honeymoon. And my mom's best friend's father was an executive with the Disney company for a long time, and he's got a window on Main Street. So my mom grew up going into the parks with her best friend, like running around before Disneyland opened for the day. Like, and then when me and my sister were born, like my mom just took us there, and all my friends grew up doing the same thing, just going to Disneyland. It was 20 to 30 minutes up the 5 freeway. That's just what we did. And so it was just, despite all the changes in our lives and growing up, that it was just a constant in our lives. Like Disneyland was always there. It's where we connected as a family. Like on the weekend, we'd be busy during the school week or whatever. And then Saturday, like, hey, let's go to Disneyland. And that's just what we did. And then eventually, I worked there for a few years, and now we live here, and I'm kind of doing the same thing with my kids, only with Disney World instead of Disneyland. So it's just always been a special place, and something where we can connect.
Awesome. So I have listened to your podcast, and I am definitely going to throw it in on my regular rotation. Even though Allie hasn't watched the Imagineering story,
I know.
I think you better get mad at her more. But anyway, so yeah, I hope everyone will go check out Park to Park podcast. It's a great show. You guys do a wonderful job with that.
Thank you.
So Mikhailo, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed the show, go share out that you've been listening to it. Share out Park to Park podcast as well, and find us on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you, CJ, for coming on the show and talking Disneyland with us, because ever since I've booked the trip, it's been all I can think about. So this was definitely good for me to this was like my therapy, my Disneyland therapy.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and you guys will have a fantastic trip, and I'm very, very jealous. You have no idea. And you'll have to come on our show and do a trip report about, what you thought of the differences and how your trip went.
Of course, that sounds perfect.
We would love to do that, yeah.
But like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.